Ben Bradley, Member of Parliament for Mansfield. Nice to see you.
Hello.
So let's go back to growing up. You went to private schools and state schools.
Yeah, it was interesting. I can't say I had a particularly difficult childhood, a kind of typical middle class family, I suppose, although it goes back to working class roots with my grandparents and stuff, I suppose. My parents did pretty well for themselves. And I was lucky enough, having been a bit of a naughty kid, I guess, in school, to they basically said at the end of year 5, we don't know what to do with you, so we're going to ship you off somewhere else. My parents put me in an independent grammar school in Derby, where I did really well. And then my mum always tells me I was too big for my boots and I needed bringing down a peg or two. So I ended up going to Mill Hill School in Ripley, which doesn't exist anymore. It was pretty rubbish for sixth form. And kind of, I guess, as a result, it came to some quite specific views around education and how it works for people and that need for different kinds of routes for people, which I bring into politics, I think.
I was interested to read that you eventually did graduate, but only on the 3rd university. You briefly attended the University of Bath and the University of Salford, but you didn't complete your degree either there. What happened?
It's a love story. It's lovely.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, no, so I went to Bath. I always wanted to be a PE teacher.
Did you?
That was my lifelong dream, really, until I went to actually do it and study it. And I was playing hockey down there and didn't get the grades I wanted. I went to, say, sixth form that wasn't great, and my grades went through the floor, didn't get the grades. So I ended up on a course I didn't want to do, dropped out in the end, which ironically is probably the best thing I've ever done, in that I worked, I was a landscape gardener, I was a recruitment consultant, all sorts of other stuff before I went back to university in Manchester, Salford. But in between physically going, I met my now wife, who lived in Grantham. So I did a year up there, and then it was a long-term relationship. It was difficult, so I had to either come back or kind of break up, I suppose. So I moved all my studies and did my second and third year in Nottingham, so we could live together at that stage.
Oh, that is a love story.
Yeah.
So how long have you been together?
Oh God, 12 years now. Been married for 7, so worked out all right.
Children?
2, yeah, 2 boys, 8 and 5. So that is the weekends are now more regimented than the week when it comes to everybody's football and all the stuff on the weekends. So they keep me busy.
Is it tough when you leave on a Monday morning?
Yeah, I think my eldest gets quite emotional about it still. My youngest has never known anything different, really. But we sometimes get the kind of teary phone calls. I ring them every morning and every night, and just kind of, when they wake up before they go to bed, and just, depending on what kind of day he's had, sometimes he gets a bit teary and emotional about it. But the joy now, I suppose, because I run council now as well, it means I'm down here a little bit less, do a lot more kind of by Zoom and Teams and stuff. I'm at home a bit more, which works out quite well, actually, from a family perspective.
Do you prefer the local aspect of your job?
Yeah, I got really fed up here, to be honest, for a variety of reasons, right? That 2017-19 Parliament was hell in many ways. And we've come into this new one, and it's been a different kind of challenge, really, not being here. Actually, lockdown was lovely because you got to go and be at home and do all the same work and kind of vote remotely and stuff. And it was really nice. And I kind of came to the conclusion that I quite like being at home, hence, stepping down from the kind of ministerial route, I suppose, and what roles I had here, and going to run the council instead, which means that you get the delivery mechanisms as well. One of the big frustrations, is you talk about whatever you like down here, but nobody has to listen, nobody has to actually do anything. Whereas now, I've got £1 billion budget and some decisions that I can make and things I can change, which is really rewarding when you can see things actually happen. Not to mention my wife's happier because I'm not down here all the time.
Do you feel happy when you're in Parliament?
It depends. It's a real love-hate relationship with Parliament, I think. And sometimes you think, God, why do I bother? This week we've been going through confidence votes and all that kind of stuff, and you think, I've now come to the conclusion, I come down here, Parliament's a tool for delivery, right? It's not a means, it's not an end in itself. There's no point coming down here just to be in Parliament. What is it you're trying to get out of it on the other end? And tying it up with the council is really helpful, because then I can talk national policy, how it impacts on my council, how I then deliver things on a local level. So to come down and spend a day banging on about dross just really winds me up. It's like I could have been doing so much in other places, and my staff were telling me off yesterday for being grumpy all day. So it can be like that. Sometimes you think, why am I here? Other times you look back, even 2017-19 Parliament, and you think, I wouldn't have missed that for the world, even though it was awful. But
it's quite an experience.
Yeah, but being in the middle of it through all of that kind of Brexit conversation, the idea, having been elected, that 6 months later I'd be sat in the Prime Minister's office saying you need to go, like, it's just weird.
Were you in? Did you go and see her?
Yeah, it was mad.
Go on, tell me about that.
Yeah, well, we all got kind of rolled into Theresa May's office as it was then.
So as a group?
Yeah, there was about 20 of us who, my seat, like Ashfield was 70-odd% leave. And we had a pretty strong view about what it should be and what it meant. And I never thought she understood it.
Right.
I never really thought she grasped what people had voted for in the end. And this idea that there was some fudge compromise in the middle, which never really rung true to me. So in the end, it seemed like, having had this vote on this deal several times already and it lost by hundreds, you're just saying, it's not going to work. And Parliament was in stasis. We couldn't pass any votes. We couldn't do anything. So we got wheeled into the office, and in the end, lots of people kind of ummed and ahed around the point and said how difficult it was. And I just said, I don't see how you can do it. You probably need to get out of the way. To which she said, and spoke to somebody else.
It's brutal, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, it's hard for her as well, right? On a personal level, horrible thing to have to go through. But I never did think she understood the premise of it all.
Do you talk to her now?
No. I probably don't try, truth be told. We've not got a great deal in common, but she's not one to say hello as we walk past each other in the corridor, kind of thing. We've seen that the Conservative Party can be quite divided on occasion.
Do you have a best friend in Parliament?
I have a few. There's some local guys, so Lee Anderson, Brendan Clark-Smith. I obviously spend a lot of time with Ashfield and Bassett Law, and we've got a lot of the same local issues, and I've known them for a long time. And then there's my kind of intake. So 2017 was really good fun, actually, in some ways, in that we were quite a small group. There were only 5 of us that won seats from Labour in England in 2017, in similar kind of seats, North East Derbyshire, like Chesterfield, Middlesbrough, Walsall. So Simon Clarke, Lee Rowley, Eddie Hughes, all kind of similar kind of ages, similar kind of backgrounds and whatever to me. So we got on really well, and we still have our occasional secret plotting dinners in the kind of basements of Parliament, as all these things.
Do you like that bit?
It's nice. So that element of it is a nice kind of social thing with people who don't take themselves too seriously. I think you can sometimes find, a lot of politicians really do believe their own hype.
It's weird, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We've seen it this week with all the stuff with the Prime Minister. People don't seem to grasp that not that many people in their election would have been voting for them or know who they are even. People think they're very important to it all. But there's a healthy dose of realism, I think, with getting the right crowd down here. We talk about colleagues, don't we, rather than friends usually in Parliament, but there are some friends. Get you through it.
Do you want Boris Johnson to be your leader at the next election?
I think so. In that, who else is there? Nobody engages with people in the way that he does. And for every email I get that says he's awful and should go, I get another one that says he's brilliant, don't ever get rid of him. So like everything at the minute, politics is so divided, isn't it? And so kind of bitter in many ways. So I think unless somebody comes forward with some brilliant, some Messiah-like vision as to what they're going to do that's better or different, then he's the best chance we've got as far as I can see. And that agenda for areas like Mansfield, the levelling up stuff about putting us at the front and centre of delivering things, investment in towns funds and levelling up funds and things, that comes from him. So if he clears off, there's no guarantee that Jeremy Hunt would have the same focus on Mansfield. Your
local area is clearly your passion. You're a bit and ahhing about time spent in Parliament. Our area, I was going to say our area because the area that I used to represent, it's next in line to get a mayor, right? Yeah. Doesn't have one yet, but it will have one. Mm-hmm. Going to stand to be the mayor?
You give me a look.
Are you going to be the Conservative candidate?
Maybe, I don't know. We're still a couple of years away, probably, from an election on the timescale. It's the levelling up bill that's going through now. So I think we're probably still 18 months away from picking somebody. Long time, isn't it, really, in politics? I don't know whether I'll stand again for Parliament. As I say, it depends on the day of the week sometimes, whether you love it or hate it. Don't know whether my wife would want me to do it again either. So we'll see, but I am really enjoying the local delivery bit. I'm really keen on kind of education, young people, kind of early intervention type work. And now we've got the levers at the council to actually do it, and it's really rewarding. So I am enjoying that. And you look at some of the other parts of the world, Andy Street, Ben Houch and Andy Burnham and the clout that they've got to change things and do things. There's a lot of appeal in that, but Lord knows where we'll be in a year or 18 months' time.
Another thing that's hard about being in politics is the abuse that MPs get. Does it affect you?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you say daft things that get you a load of interest that you didn't particularly mean, or you know, you get yourself into trouble. But there's just this constant flow of it, I find, and it's a bit like that up and down around the place. I sometimes have days where you just think, God, why do you bother? I blocked somebody this week on Facebook, not because they were particularly abusive, but just because it was a constant torrent of negativity on everything. Like any post you put up, we've got this money, or we're trying to do this, it was like, oh, it's not good enough, it's not big enough, it's not. And in the end, you just think, I don't need that. Like, why do, you know, I go to work and try and do things, and you know, then you block them, and then you get abused for blocking people.
Have you ever felt threatened by anyone?
Odd occasion. First surgery I ever had in 2017, we had a guy come and wave his mace around, got like sprays, pepper spray stuff. Got arrested pretty quickly. In
your first constituency surgery?
That was an experience.
God, how did you react? Did you...
Well, it's all you can do, really.
Just describe what happened.
I mean, obviously had some mental health problems and whatever, and probably was well known to the previous MP by the sounds of it. You'll know you get, you know, a handful, 5, 10 people who are just at you all the time. Usually have got pretty serious mental health issues, and probably are at every other agency around the place as well. So yeah, he was perfectly calm, and then all of a sudden just jumped up and started waving his spray can around. Just tried to keep him calm, really, and eventually shepherded him out the door. The police were really good, and usually are really good, but not normally threatened. They threatened to kidnap my wife once, which was nice.
Who's they?
Social media. It's ridiculous, but you never know how seriously to take these things, because on the one hand, it's probably some kid prattling about, some keyboard warrior who will never do it. But then if you ignore it, and then something does happen, you know, you never forgive yourself, would you? So the police ended up bashing his door in. Turns out it was some spotty teenager who burst into tears as soon as they walked through the door. But people don't understand the impact of their words, do they, when it comes to Twitter in particular?
Let's end on something happy. Nottingham Forest. Where were you on the day?
Oh, I was at Wembley. It was massive. So I was 8 years old when they got relegated, right? And as an 8-year-old, in my naive little life, it was probably the worst thing that had ever happened to me. And I still remember the despair. So I took my own 8-year-old to Wembley to see him get promoted. He's the first season he's been, and I think he's only lost one game this year, and that was Liverpool that he's been to. We've had a great time. It's been really nice to go with him. But yeah, to see, I'd never thought it would happen after languishing in League One for years. But huge for the area as well, right? It was a real shame that Mansfield couldn't do it as well on the Saturday, because we nearly got there. The economic impact's huge. Just like community and pride and people's view of the world, isn't it? That football means a lot to people. So,
what's a bigger high? Notts Forest winning the league. I think that's the right phrase. Yeah, not football.
Not a football fan.
Or 2017 getting elected to Parliament.
Oh, hindsight's a wonderful thing. Football's easier, isn't it, from that perspective? I've never been so nervous as I was in the 2017 election, because we weren't meant to win, right? It was a 5,500 Labour majority. Nobody thought we were going to win. And then we knew it was close.
I did, because I was not.
Yeah, well, you had to have that local knowledge of it, though, I think, to see the way the tide was going.
Yeah.
But nobody nationally did, and I've never been that nervous in my life, just kind of pacing around and not knowing what to do with yourself. Whereas, fortunately, this time, I mean, the Forest game was hopefully fairly sewn up before the end, so it wasn't too bad. But no, it's just really nice to spend it with my kids as well and to enjoy that together. So, bit of a sports nut, so we take all that in.
Really lovely to chat, Ben Bradley.
Nice
MP for Mansfield, thank you.